1. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, at its core, relationships and interpersonal connections are cool, are great, are important, and generally contribute to your character and well being. But let's call a spade a spade. A crush, especially when you're young in your formative years, and in many instances, are based on fucking vibes. It's based on emotion, infatuation, and initial impression of what you perceive to other people. I have a crush on Sydney Sweeney. My girlfriend has a crush on Timothy Chalamet. Matthew might have a crush on someone from his law school. And in many instances, these things do not really meaningfully become something. And in instances where it does, that is a minority rather than a rule. I understand that, yeah, sure, crushes and any person becoming into a relationship or getting married started off as a crush, but the point in which you actually over-validate and overly give so much meaning to every single crush that people experience in their life, ironically, is what makes it harder for people to be happy and end up in actual relationships. Because in instances where this does blossom into the love of your life, the romance that takes you and sweeps you off your feet is something that is actually likely to happen in the minority of cases. And in the majority of cases, you lead people into this like waste of time narrative wherein you overly validate all of these particular things. This is a policy debate about the extent of what we teach people and ultimately about protecting the emotional sensitivities and emotional vulnerabilities of young people, especially since this is a policy. I understand and I agree that we're talking about what the government should do, what parents, counselors, and schools should do. And we think that if you really care about young people, you also have to give them the whole cold, hard truth that when you are prepubescent or going through puberty, or you're actually grappling with your own emotions, just like all young people do, is ultimately where you need to be able to categorize these particular things. Meaning, the attraction and love you have for your family and friends, that is something different compared to you having a crush. And we think when you actually downplay what a crush is, actually reinforces the extent of you pursuing that person amidst adversity. Meaning, if we tell you, yo bro, you gotta be aware that that girl in science class, it's just a crush, it might not mean something, but maybe weeks, months, and even years later, if you still have that feeling towards them, you know you're not just thinking with your private parts, or you're not just making an emotional kind of decision. That is to say, the point in which society ascribes that meaning of it just being a crush and not likely to be something more actually gives people that capacity to go beyond that and actually pursue them if they do want to. But like what I mentioned in my POI, let's be real. Young boys, young girls, they have many crushes, simultaneous crushes. They have crushes on people who are real, people who are not, parasocial relationships, celebrities, etc. And we think, on side proposition, if you overly validate and give so much meaning to these things, you lead them astray in terms of being able to understand their own personhood. I'll take a POI from opening government. Go for it.
Do you think it is actually realistic for a romantic decision by a teen to be very deliberated upon and a very, very conscious decision?
No, it's not. That's exactly why on your side, if you overly validate and give so much meaning to that bullshit, it's exactly the point in which you gaslight them or you misconstrue their ability to truly understand their own personhood. It's precisely because these things aren't like super nuanced. It's exactly where we have to call BS and tell them, yo, bro, you might be thinking with your private parts, you need to really determine something more from that. And the point in which where they choose to do so is exactly where you unlock the benefits you assume in terms of being able to understand relationships. Closing government, I'll take you, go for it.
It's different for you as an adult citizen to have a crush on Sydney Sweeney, but a teenager who's just watched Harry Potter might have different feelings, and her crush on a celebrity meant something much more important than processed
Yeah.
feelings of an adult on a
Correct. But
celebrity.
as an average person and as the government or someone who cares about my child, do I really want to reinforce so much meaning into having a crush on Hermione or having a crush on Cedric Diggory because they're attractive and hot? We think your side, ironically enough, leads it and makes it more difficult for people to grapple and understand their emotion. Contrary to popular belief, I know it's a hot take, especially in a very left leaning progressive sport, over validation and giving so much meaning to things can harm people. Because make no mistake, this debate isn't about validating or invalidating crushes. This debate is specifically about a policy that governments and people are going to do in terms of ascribing the meaning towards those crushes. On side proposition, you create a certain perverse incentive structure that can lead to an impact of delusion when you put so much meaning into it. Take note the case of the Prime Minister. How much mental heuristics and gymnastics you have to believe for their case's impact to come true. I need to be empathetic. I need to pursue this person. They need to validate me. But like I raised in my POI, right, these things are completely fleeting and in many instances do not necessarily have any long-lasting impact. And in instances where that does happen, that is a minority rather than the rule. And here's the kicker analysis. You get the benefits they're talking about when you actually go through that experience and grind of that particular relationship, as opposed to in the beginning where you give too much meaning to that person and that realm of possibilities of having crushes that make it harder for them to actually connect and relate. Because let's vibe check it. In many instances, your crush is someone you don't know. They don't know you. You're looking at it from afar and you're making all these perverse perceptions of who you think they are, which actually attract you to the first place. Ladies and gentlemen, validation is not the way to go all of the time, and in many instances, it can harm people en masse. I'm very proud to stand on side opposition.